Let me say something very clearly right at the start. If you think clogged arteries are like dirty pipes, you've been taught the wrong model. And that wrong model is why so many people do everything right and still end up with heart attacks, strokes, or bypass surgery. I'm Dr. Michael Harris, and today I want to reset how you think about arterial plaque, because until you understand what it actually is, nothing you do will truly work. You've probably heard this before. Your arteries are clogged. Plaque is building up. We need to clean them out. So people start searching for solutions. Lemon water, apple cider vinegar, garlic pills, detox drinks, cleanses, and I'm going to stop you right there. Your arteries are not pipes. Plaque is not grease. And there is nothing you can drink that will wash it away. If it were that simple, heart disease wouldn't still be the #1 killer. Now listen carefully because this part matters. Plaque is not just cholesterol. Plaque is an immune response. It's inflammation. It's white blood cells. It's damage repair gone wrong. And once you understand that, the entire conversation changes. Inside every artery is a very thin lining, just one cell thick, called the endothelium. When that lining is healthy, it does something remarkable. It keeps the artery relaxed instead of tense. It stops immune cells from sticking where they don't belong, and it continuously releases nitric oxide, a protective signal that tells the vessel wall to stay flexible, calm, and resistant to damage. As long as that lining is working properly, blood flows smoothly and the system stays stable. But over time, years and sometimes decades, that lining gets injured. High blood pressure, smoking, blood sugar spikes, chronic inflammation, oxidative stress. The surface becomes rough instead of smooth. Tiny gaps form, and through those gaps, LDL particles slip into the artery wall. Now here's the part most people never hear. LDL by itself isn't the main problem. The real danger starts when LDL becomes oxidized. Oxidation changes its shape, changes its chemistry, and once that happens, your immune system no longer recognizes it as harmless. It sees it as a threat. So your body sends in immune cells into the artery wall. They transform into macrophages. Macrophages are garbage collectors. Their job is to eat things that don't belong. They swallow the oxidized LDL. But cholesterol isn't something these cells are designed to store. They fill up, they swell, they become sick. Under a microscope, they look foamy. That's where the term foam cell comes from. Foam cells are the beginning of plaque. They pile up, they struggle, they eventually die. And when they die, they burst open. They spill cholesterol crystals, enzymes, and inflammatory signals into the artery wall. That attracts more immune cells. More macrophages arrive, more LDL is eaten, more foam cells form. This is not passive buildup, it's an active immune war happening inside your arteries. And here's something that surprises almost everyone. Most heart attacks do not happen because an artery slowly closes shut. They happen because plaque ruptures. Plaque is not a solid lump. It's a fragile structure with a thin cap covering a toxic core of dead foam cells and inflammation. When that cap tears, the contents spill into the bloodstream. Your blood reacts instantly. A clot forms. Blood flow stops. In the heart, that's a heart attack. In the brain, it's a stroke. And here's the dangerous part. The plaque that ruptures is often not the biggest one. Sometimes it's only blocking 30 or 40% of the artery, but it's inflamed, unstable, fragile. That's why people with not that bad scans still collapse suddenly. This is also why focusing only on blockage percentage misses the real threat. The real question is not how narrow the artery is. The real question is what's happening inside the artery wall. Inflammation, oxidation, immune activity, calcium buildup. Until those processes change, the disease continues, even if cholesterol numbers improve. Now here's the part that gives people hope. Your body is not helpless. There is a built-in mechanism that allows cholesterol to leave the artery wall, a real biological process, not a theory, not a trend. And when that process is active, plaque can stabilize and, in some cases, shrink. It's called reverse cholesterol transport. And in the next part, I'm going to explain exactly how it works, why it breaks down as we age, and why most treatments never fully activate it. Because once you understand that mechanism, the meal I'm going to show you later will finally make sense. Reverse cholesterol transport is not about good cholesterol and bad cholesterol in the way it's usually explained. It's about movement. HDL is not good because it's a number on a lab report. HDL is good because it's a vehicle. Its job is to go into tissues, collect excess cholesterol, and carry it back to the liver so your body can get rid of it. When this system is working, cholesterol doesn't stay trapped inside immune cells. When it's not working, cholesterol piles up and plaque grows. Now here's where things quietly break down. As people age, and especially when there's insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, or oxidative stress, this transport system slows. HDL particles become dysfunctional. They're present, but they don't work well. And inside the plaque, the immune cells lose the ability to push cholesterol back out. So cholesterol gets stuck. Foam cells swell. Inflammation stays active. Plaque becomes unstable. This is why so many people lower their LDL numbers and still progress. The number improves. The biology doesn't. And this is why simply raising HDL with medication failed. Those drugs made the HDL number look better, but they didn't restore its function. They didn't fix cholesterol export. They didn't turn plaque biology around. Now here's the part that matters for you. This system is highly sensitive to signals from food, not calories, not carbs versus fat, specific compounds. Certain compounds tell immune cells to open the door and let cholesterol out. Others make HDL better at picking that cholesterol up. Others calm the inflammation that keeps the whole system jammed. When those signals show up every day, the internal environment changes. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. And this is where people either get results or they don't. Because this system does not respond to occasional effort. It responds to consistency. Now, there's another layer to this that makes plaque more dangerous over time, even when cholesterol levels aren't extreme. Calcium. As plaque sits in the artery wall year after year, your body tries to stabilize the inflammation, and one of the ways it does that is by depositing calcium. That sounds protective, but it's not. Calcium makes arteries stiff, it makes plaques brittle, and it increases the risk that a plaque will crack instead of stretch. This is why calcium scores predict heart attacks better than cholesterol numbers. They're showing you how long this process has been active and how badly mineral control has broken down. And here's the part most people never hear. Your body has a protein whose entire job is to keep calcium out of arteries. That protein exists to protect you, but it only works when it's activated, and in many adults it isn't. So calcium goes where it doesn't belong, into vessel walls, into plaques, into places where flexibility matters. This is why treating cholesterol alone never finishes the job. You have to address cholesterol movement. You have to calm immune activity, and you have to restore proper calcium handling. And before any of that can work reliably, there's one more trigger we haven't fully dealt with yet: oxidation. Because if LDL never oxidizes in the first place, immune cells never attack it. And if immune cells never attack it, foam cells never form. That's where this whole thing starts. And that's what we're going to tackle next. No meaningful reduction in heart attacks. In some cases, outcomes were worse. That led to a dangerous conclusion. People were told antioxidants don't work, but that wasn't the real lesson. What failed wasn't oxidation control. What failed was the pill approach, because oxidation inside the body isn't a simple chemical spill you mop up with a tablet. It's targeted, it's location-specific. It happens inside lipoproteins, inside immune cells, inside vessel walls. Most antioxidant pills never reach the place where oxidation actually matters. And even worse, dumping isolated antioxidants into the system can disrupt normal signaling. Some antioxidants turn into pro-oxidants at high doses. Others shut down protective stress responses the body actually needs. That's why the pill strategy failed. But here's what didn't fail. Whole foods. Certain foods contain compounds that don't just float around the bloodstream. They actually integrate into LDL particles themselves. They become part of the structure. And when that happens, LDL becomes resistant to oxidation. This is a completely different mechanism. One of the clearest examples of this comes from pomegranate. Pomegranate contains unique polyphenols that bind directly to LDL particles. When someone consumes them consistently, those compounds ride along with LDL in the bloodstream, and that matters because when free radicals attack, those LDL particles don't fall apart as easily. They don't oxidize the same way. The immune system doesn't get triggered. Macrophages don't rush in. Foam cells don't form. That single change interrupts the entire cascade. This is why long-term studies looking at whole pomegranate intake showed reductions in arterial thickness over time, not because pomegranate is magic, because it changes LDL's vulnerability. There's another layer to this that's just as important. Those same compounds improve the protective behavior of HDL. HDL isn't just a cholesterol taxi, it carries enzymes that neutralize oxidized fats. When those enzymes work well, HDL becomes a shield, not just a transporter. And when oxidation pressure drops, inflammation drops with it. That matters because oxidation and inflammation feed each other. Oxidation triggers immune activation. Immune activation increases oxidative stress. It's a loop, break the loop, and the disease slows. Now here's where this connects back to calcium because this is something most people don't realize. Oxidation accelerates calcification. As foam cells die and rupture, they leave behind debris. That debris becomes a scaffold where calcium can settle. The more oxidation and inflammation you have, the faster calcium builds up. That's why people with okay cholesterol numbers can still end up with very high calcium scores. The issue isn't just cholesterol levels, it's how long the artery wall has been under oxidative attack. So when you reduce oxidation, you're not just protecting LDL, you're also slowing plaque hardening, you're buying flexibility, you're reducing brittleness, you're lowering rupture risk. This is why addressing oxidation is not optional, it's foundational. And now, when you step back and look at the whole picture, the strategy becomes clear. You don't chase numbers, you change the internal environment, you restore nitric oxide so vessels relax and resist damage. You activate cholesterol export so foam cells can empty out. You protect LDL so the immune system stays calm, and you control calcium so plaques don't harden into ticking time bombs. That's not one intervention, it's a system. And systems respond to patterns, not one-off actions, which brings us to the practical part. There is a specific daily meal that brings all of these signals together at the same time. Not by accident, not because it's trendy, because each component targets one of these mechanisms directly. And if you remove one piece, the system weakens. In the next part, I'm going to walk you through that meal step by step, the way it actually functions inside your body and why timing and consistency matter more than perfection. Stay with me, because this is where everything we've talked about finally turns into something you can use. Certain foods carry nitrates, not the bad kind people worry about, the natural kind found in plants. When you eat those foods, the nitrates don't just disappear, your body recycles them in a very deliberate loop. They move into your blood. Your salivary glands pull them out. They're released into your mouth, and bacteria on your tongue convert them into a usable form. You swallow, they move through your system, and nitric oxide gets released right where vessels are under stress. This pathway doesn't care if your endothelium is damaged. It works anyway. That's why it's so valuable. Among all foods, arugula stands out. It's extremely rich in natural nitrates. It's easy to eat raw, and it doesn't carry the downside some other greens do. When you eat arugula consistently, nitric oxide availability improves within hours. Blood flow improves. Vessel stiffness drops. Many people feel it before they ever see it on a test. Warmer hands, less pressure, better exercise tolerance. Now there's something that quietly destroys this entire pathway. Mouthwash. Not brushing, not flossing. Mouthwash. Antiseptic mouthwash kills the bacteria that convert nitrates into nitric oxide. When those bacteria are gone, this pathway shuts down. People do everything right nutritionally, then unknowingly sabotage the signal twice a day. So this is non-negotiable. If you want nitric oxide back, mouthwash has to go. Now, opening the arteries is step one. But opening the road doesn't move the garbage. For that, cholesterol has to leave the foam cells, and that's where the second part of the meal comes in: olive oil. But not just any olive oil. Most olive oil on shelves is dead, refined, filtered, stripped of the compounds that matter. What you're looking for is olive oil that burns the back of your throat when you swallow it. That burning sensation isn't a flaw. It's a signal. It means the oil is rich in phenolic compounds, especially one called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal does two important things at the same time. First, it calms inflammation inside the artery wall. Second, it sends a signal that increases cholesterol export from foam cells. This is the missing link for most people. They lower LDL, but cholesterol stays trapped because the exit door stays closed. Oleocanthal helps open that door, and the amount matters. A drizzle doesn't do it. 3 to 4 tablespoons per day is the range that consistently shows benefit. That sounds like a lot because we've been trained to fear fat, but fat isn't the issue here. Signaling is, and without enough of it, the signal is too weak. So now, imagine what's happening inside the artery when these two pieces are in place. Nitric oxide improves blood flow and calms the vessel wall. Olive oil signals immune cells to start pushing cholesterol out. The environment shifts. But there's still a problem if plaque has been sitting there for years: calcium. As plaque ages, calcium hardens it, makes it brittle, makes rupture more likely. If you don't address that, you're leaving a major risk untouched. That's where the third piece comes in, and it's the one almost nobody talks about: vitamin K2. This vitamin activates a protein whose entire job is to keep calcium out of arteries. When it's active, calcium stays in bones where it belongs. When it's inactive, calcium settles into vessel walls. Many adults are deficient, and when K2 is missing, plaques harden no matter what you do with cholesterol. In the next part, I'm going to explain exactly how K2 works, where it comes from, and why without it, plaque reversal stalls. This is the piece that turns a healthy diet into a real intervention. There is a protein produced inside your artery walls whose entire job is to stop calcium from settling there, to keep arteries soft, alive, responsive. That protein exists for one reason, but it only works if it's activated, and the switch that activates it is vitamin K2, not vitamin K1, not calcium supplements, not vitamin D alone. Vitamin K2. When K2 is present, it activates this protective protein, and calcium is guided away from arteries and toward bones where it belongs. When K2 is missing, the protein stays inactive. Calcium has nowhere to go except where it shouldn't: into plaques, into vessel walls, into places that turn a slow disease into a sudden event. This is why so many people do everything right and still see their calcium score climb year after year. They never fixed calcium signaling. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most adults are low in vitamin K2. It's not in many modern foods, it's not emphasized in guidelines, and it's almost never discussed in cardiology visits. So where does it come from? Primarily from fermented foods and aged animal products. Foods humans used to eat regularly, but most people no longer do. That's why this part of the meal matters just as much as olive oil and greens. Without K2, plaques don't soften, they don't stabilize properly, they don't regress. Now, at this point, the system is almost complete. Blood flow is improving. Cholesterol export is activating, calcium deposition is being controlled. But there's one more pressure point we haven't fully addressed yet: oxidation. Because even if you fix everything else, if LDL keeps oxidizing, the immune system keeps getting triggered. That's where the final component comes in: pomegranate, not juice, not capsules. The actual fruit. Pomegranate contains compounds that bind directly to LDL particles and make them harder to oxidize. That matters because LDL that resists oxidation doesn't trigger immune attack. When immune attack slows, foam cell formation slows. When foam cells stop forming, plaques stop growing, and there's another benefit that often gets overlooked. Those same compounds make HDL more protective. They help HDL neutralize oxidized fats before they cause damage. So now, let's put this together the way it actually works day to day. This is not a cheat meal. This is not something you do once in a while. This is a daily signal. You start with arugula, raw, fresh. Enough to actually deliver nitrates, not just garnish a plate. You add high-quality olive oil. Enough to send a real signal, not a decorative drizzle. You include a source of vitamin K2 so calcium knows where it belongs, and you add pomegranate to protect LDL from oxidation and calm immune activity. When these show up together, something important happens. The artery wall environment changes. Blood flows better. Immune cells calm down. Cholesterol has an exit path. Calcium stops hardening plaques. Oxidative pressure drops. None of this is dramatic in a week, but over time, this is how stabilization happens. And in some people, this is how regression begins. Now, there's one mistake I see people make at this stage. They treat this like a suggestion instead of a protocol. They do it sometimes, they skip pieces, they substitute, and then they say it didn't work. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Biology responds to repeated signals, not intentions. In the next part, I'm going to walk you through exactly how this fits into a normal day, how often it needs to be eaten, what to avoid so you don't cancel the effect, and how to know if it's actually working. Because if you're going to do this, you deserve to do it in a way that gives your body a real chance to respond. What matters is that it becomes non-negotiable. Now here's something important. You cannot do this meal and then spend the rest of the day attacking your arteries. If the rest of your diet is built on sugar, refined carbs, seed oils, and constant blood sugar spikes, you're sending mixed signals. 1 hour of repair doesn't cancel 23 hours of damage. This meal works best when it's the foundation, not the exception. You don't need perfection, you don't need obsession, but you do need to stop doing the things that directly sabotage it. And there are a few big ones. The first is mouthwash. I know it sounds small, it's not. If you kill the bacteria that convert nitrates into nitric oxide, you shut down the very first step of this protocol. Brushing and flossing are enough. The second is cheap oils. Refined vegetable oils create oxidative stress. They undo the LDL protection you're trying to build. If olive oil doesn't burn your throat, it's not doing the job. The third is treating olive oil like a garnish. If you're afraid of fat and keep pulling back, the signal never reaches full strength. This isn't about calories. This is about information sent to cells. Now let's talk about expectations, because this is where people quietly quit. You will not feel plaque dissolving. You won't feel calcium leaving your arteries. What you may notice first is subtle: better circulation, warmer extremities, less pressure with exertion, more stable energy. Those are early signs that the internal environment is changing, but the real confirmation comes from data, not feelings. If you want to know whether this is working, you don't guess. You measure. Coronary calcium scores don't change quickly, and that's a good thing. Stabilization is the first win. A score that stops climbing is success. Changes, when they happen, take time. Lipid markers that reflect particle behavior, not just totals, often improve earlier. Inflammation markers often fall first. This is why impatience ruins results. People stop just before biology would have responded. Now I want to address something directly because I know it's in your head. What about medication? This protocol does not replace medical care. Lowering LDL can reduce incoming load. This meal improves export, stability, and repair. They work together, not against each other. Where people get into trouble is assuming one tool does everything. It doesn't. Now here's the most important mindset shift I want you to make. This is not about reversing damage so you can go back to old habits. This is about changing the internal conditions that allowed damage in the first place. Arteries respond to their environment. Change the environment, and the tissue adapts. Ignore it, and the disease continues quietly until it doesn't. And that's the part people don't get warned about. Heart disease doesn't usually announce itself. It waits. Now, before we close this out, I want you to understand why this information feels unfamiliar. It's not because it's fringe, it's not because it's secret, it's because modern care is built around managing outcomes, not changing mechanisms. Food doesn't fit neatly into a prescription pad. Consistency doesn't generate profit. Prevention doesn't make headlines, but biology doesn't care about any of that. It responds to signals, daily ones, and that's what this is. In the final part, I'm going to bring everything together, explain why fear-based advice keeps people stuck, and show you how to think about arterial health long-term without anxiety, without obsession, and without falling back into myths. This is where most people finally relax and get control. Now I want to slow this down and bring everything together because this is where most people either feel empowered or overwhelmed. And overwhelm helps no one. Heart disease has been turned into a fear story. Numbers, deadlines, warnings, do this or else. It creates anxiety. What actually creates change is understanding what's happening and knowing you're not powerless. Your arteries are not fragile glass tubes waiting to shatter. They're living tissue. They respond, they adapt. Everything you learned today points to one truth. This disease doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't reverse overnight either. It responds to the environment you create inside your body. When blood flow improves, arteries behave differently. When oxidation drops, immune cells calm down. When cholesterol has an exit path, foam cells stop piling up. When calcium is guided where it belongs, plaques stop hardening. None of that requires perfection. It requires consistency. And this is where people get stuck in the wrong mindset. They ask, did I eat perfectly today? That's the wrong question. The right question is, what signal did I send today? Because your body doesn't count calories the way apps do. It reads patterns. One salad doesn't fix years of damage, but one bad day doesn't erase months of repair either. That's the part no one tells you. This is not a fragile process. It's resilient when you stop fighting it. Now, I want to be very clear about something before we finish. This isn't about chasing a miracle meal. This isn't about obsessing over food. It's about removing confusion. Once you understand that plaque is driven by inflammation, oxidation, immune trapping, and calcium misplacement, the noise disappears. You stop chasing vinegar cures, you stop fearing olive oil, you stop thinking arteries are pipes, and you stop panicking every time you see a number on a lab report. Numbers matter, but biology matters more. If your environment improves, the numbers usually follow. And if they don't, you adjust calmly instead of reacting emotionally. That's control. Now, if this information feels different from what you've heard before, there's a reason. Most advice is designed to be simple, not accurate. Most guidelines aim to manage populations, not individuals. Most conversations stop at lower cholesterol because that's easy to measure. What's harder is explaining mechanisms, but mechanisms are what actually change outcomes. And once you understand them, you don't need fear to motivate you, you need clarity. So here's how I want you to think going forward. Your arteries are responding right now, whether you pay attention or not. Every day, you're either sending signals that calm the system or signals that keep it irritated. That's it. No drama, no countdown clock, no panic, just signals. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. You don't fix arteries by attacking them. You fix them by changing the environment they live in. And that's something you can do quietly, daily, without extremes. If this helped you understand what's really going on inside your body, stay with this channel. Not because you need more fear, but because you deserve clearer explanations. And if someone you care about is confused, anxious, or overwhelmed about heart health, share this with them, not to scare them, to ground them. I'll see you in the next video.